What's up YouTube, it's your boy Nasher. Welcome back to the channel. Now before we get started with today's video, the road to 200 subs has now come to a close and we are now 209 subs away from hitting 500 subs. And if you guys are new to the channel, and I know that a lot of you guys are, because practically 100% of you guys are watching the content, but you guys are not even subscribed. So if you guys are watching the content, you like the content, and you want more of the content, but you guys have not subscribed as of yet, then make sure you guys do indeed subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, smash that thumbs up button on this video, and as always, make sure you guys are following me on all my social media. All of my ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And I want you guys to post in the comments below answering the question of the day, which basically ties with today's video. But the question of the day is this: who would you guys like to see get called up to the main roster after WrestleMania? Let me know down in the comments below. Excuse me. And for today's video, that's exactly what we are going to be talking about today. Apparently, there are 7 possible main roster call-ups that we could potentially be seeing. Now, obviously, we all know when it comes to the Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania, the unpredictability can get very insane. We saw last year's WrestleMania, we saw the debut of none other than the former NXT champion Ilya Dragunov. We saw the debut of Roxanne Perez. We saw as well. We also saw on SmackDown, and that was just on Raw. On SmackDown, we saw the debut of Tama Tonga, which that was completely unexpected. We saw Cody make the move over to Friday Night SmackDown simply because of the fact that the World Heavyweight title was exclusive to Monday Night Raw, and of course the WWE title is exclusive to none other than Friday Night SmackDown. So these 7 main roster call-ups are pretty much imminent at this point. Some might be a bit unorthodox, but let's get down to it. So kicking these off is Trick Williams. The weird thing is that his main roster call-up is way long overdue. I feel like as if he could have been called up at some point last year. And the reason why I say that is because there really wasn't a whole lot for Trick to do in NXT. Like, yeah, sure, there was the NXT title, which which at that point he had been chasing after for months at that point. But now that he's a 2-time champion and has to deal with Eddie Thorpe tonight at I think it's tonight at Roadblock. At this point, there really isn't much left for Trick Williams to do. Like, maybe get one last opportunity at the NXT title at Stand and Deliver, and then after that, it's off to the main roster. And it's weird because it would make more sense for Trick to get called up to Monday Night Raw, as I'm scratching my back, rather than Friday Night SmackDown, because if they move him to SmackDown, the rivalry that Trick had with Carmelo Hayes escalated so personally. It got to a point where on NXT they had to literally put both men in separate locker rooms, which was insane. So I think the only way that he could get called up to SmackDown is if he got paired up with Carmelo Hayes, and they turn Trick Williams heel, or they turn Carmelo Hayes babyface. But since I know that won't be the case, it'll be better to see him on Raw, because the talent that's on Raw is absolutely incredible. I mean, you got guys like Seth freaking Rollins, CM Punk, who both last night had a fucking war inside that steel cage. But unbeknownst to everyone, out comes Roman Reigns, definitely setting up a triple threat between all three men. That one ought to be very interesting. Let's see here. Where was I? Oh yeah, Trek. Oh yeah, Trek. Guys like Chad Gable. Guys like Finn Balor, Dirty Dom, just to name a few. Even also for Braun Breaker. And it's weird because we could potentially see Carmelo, not Carmelo Hayes, see Trick Williams get, inject himself into the Intercontinental Championship picture, because right now you've got guys like Finn Balor, you got Sheamus, you've got Ludwig Kaiser, Pete Dunne, and Penta all fighting to get a shot at Braun Breaker and the IC title. But imagine if Trick Williams got involved as well. The way I see it, we could see Trick Williams debut on the main roster at WrestleMania. So we could potentially see Trick Williams leave WrestleMania 41 as Intercontinental Champion, which would be incredible. Would be incredibly crazy. But other than that, I think Monday Night Raw is definitely what's best for him at this point. If they move him to SmackDown, it's not gonna be pretty. Next up is actually a possible return. Is actually a possible return in the form of Rusev. Now, obviously, for those who do not remember Rusev, he's a former three-time U.S. champion, and actually had a very interesting run in WWE during the pandemic. But I think the Raw after WrestleMania would really do wonders for Rusev, because he's been away from WWE since 2021, I want to say, and he had left WWE to go to AEW, and had been there for quite some time. But his time with AEW has expired, and now is a free agent. So I think now would be the perfect time to see Rusev back in WWE. But it mainly comes down to creative, right? Like would creative have plans for Rusev on his return? And honestly, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think a return to WWE could spell out danger for Rusev, because he could end up getting lost in the shuffle like he did around like 2019, like 2020, right before the pandemic. In which case, it just comes down to the question of whether or not it would be worth it. But it'll be interesting. I think maybe going to Raw would be okay, but who knows? Next one up is actually one that is pretty much guaranteed at this point, in the form of Roxanne Perez. Arguably one of the youngest champions we've ever had, but one of the greatest NXT Women's Champions we have had, I would probably say, since Shayna Baszler. And that's saying a lot, considering that Shayna was the NXT Women's Champion for well over 400 days in a single run, and Roxanne Perez had been champion for a little over a year, almost a year actually, and let's see here. If I remember correctly, she had been champion since she was champion she became a two-time champion at Stand and Deliver last year in Philly, and dropped the title at New Year's Evil just this past January, and that right there is almost a year. Think about that, almost a year. And again, at this point, we saw her compete in the women's Royal Rumble match last month. We saw her compete on SmackDown several weeks ago. We saw her compete in a qualifying match against Roxanne Perez for the right to be inside the Elimination Chamber, and we even saw her compete inside the Elimination Chamber as well. So at this point, Roxanne Perez, we are 100% expecting Roxanne to be a part of the Raw roster, just because of how big of a star she was in NXT. I have no doubt in my mind that she'll be a massive hit on Monday Night Raw. Next one up is actually one that a lot of people have been clamoring for a while, and I know that I talked about this in a previous video, but Matt Cardona is another guy that I would love to see get brought back to Monday Night Raw. I think mostly just because of the fact that he's won more than 20 championships in more than 20 different wrestling promotions over the course of 4.5 years. Ever since he left WWE in 2020, he had been a very dominant champion. So to be able to see him back on Raw, using his actual name, which is Matt Cardona instead of Zack Ryder, I think would really help him out, because if they stick to Zack Ryder, the name, it's just not going to work out. It's just not going to work out. But who knows? It's very possible, but we'll have to wait and see over time. Next one up, Malakai Black. So this was another guy that I had talked about recently. I think it was in one of my videos. I think, what was it, Sunday? Excuse me. It was either Saturday or Sunday this past weekend. Excuse me, that I brought up Malakai Black, and I brought up Rusev, and I even also brought up Matt Cardona. Malakai we're 100% expecting him to show up, not to Raw, but to SmackDown, and the main reason, he's married to Zelina Vega. So with Vega on SmackDown, it's pretty imminent at this point. But I think the only way that he could be a massive star in WWE is if they did something with him, creatively speaking. Like, if they were to put him in line for a shot at the U.S. title or something like that, I think he could really do some damage in WWE. But also think about this, because that he was a megastar in NXT, maybe he might join the NXT roster, which is very, very possible. But these next two, I actually want to look at the last one here. Give me 1 second, you guys. Okay. So this next one and the last one that's on my list, that's on this list, courtesy of Wrestle Talk. Big shout out, no copyrights as always. Is actually one that I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm gonna let you guys think about this one and let me know in the comments. But this next one is the Dawn of NXT, Tony D'Angelo. I don't know. I think he still has a lot to prove in WWE. I think the only way that his career could really be complete in NXT is if he went after the NXT title, which is currently being held by Obafemi. So I feel like Stand and Deliver. Here's what I'm thinking, right? Here's what I'm thinking. Stand and Deliver, main event, Fatal 4-Way. Obafemi, Trick Williams, Tony D'Angelo, Eddie Thorpe. That's what I'm thinking. That's my envisioning of the main event for NXT Stand and Deliver. Tony wins it, and Trick Williams and Obafemi both get called up to the main roster. Eddie and Tony stay with NXT, and then once Tony D'Angelo drops the title around around the time of the summer, right before possibly Money in the Bank, I think that's when things are really going to get interesting, to say the very least. I think Tony D'Angelo on the main roster now, it's too soon. I feel like it's way too soon. He still has a lot left to do in NXT. I would just keep him there. And this last one actually is one that I know is not going to happen, and it's the current TNA Tag Team Champions, the Hardys. And at this point, Matt and Jeff Hardy, they were in an interview not a while back, and they said that they want to finish their careers competing in NXT. And having them on the main roster, it just would not sit well. It would not sit well because it'll make people think that they're not really retiring. So it just comes down to the question of who else, besides, if not the Hardys, then who else could end up getting called up to the main roster? And as crazy as it sounds, I think it has to be someone like Julia, or perhaps maybe Fraxium. I know that all three of them are definitely next in line, definitely next in line to be on the main roster, but we will have to wait and see. But on that note, let me know down in the comments below who you believe should get called up to the main roster from NXT, and what championship should they go after? Let me know down in the comments below, and that'll do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more WWE topic videos in the future, then make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and as always, make sure you guys are following me on all of my social media. All of my ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.